So, welcome back to Makeup History, and my name is Eva. I don't know if I've mentioned it before. And boy, do we have a show for you. There's actually three looks that were shot on me, so filmed, not pictures. So, you're going to have a 3D look at the makeup. Two are inspirations, and one is a recreation. The recreation is the tutorial, and you can see it at the end of the video. The timestamp will be below. And we are still stuck in a time warp from the 1970s. Ooh, scary. What I really like about the 1970s is where all of this editorial fashion, only made for pictures, theatrical type makeup starts. And I'm not talking pretty makeup, I'm really talking makeup that's only made for the camera. Even Instagram makeup technically can be considered editorial makeup or even theatrical makeup, because if you would see someone with that makeup in real life, you'd think, oh my God, that's intense. But in a picture, somehow it works. And that's what we're exploring in makeup history today. It really starts in the 1970s. And what starts it all of it, everything, no, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but what starts it all is BIBA. So, in order to put yourself into context with this whole 1970s makeup thing, you have to understand that the 60s happened before. Young generationals, or baby boomers as they're known, arrived and they created a whole scene of cool clothing and cool designers and cool ways of being cool. And it had never really happened before, like ever. So BIBA is the brainchild of Barbara Hulinitzky and her husband. She loves to illustrate, and her first jobs were illustrating fashion. She would go to Paris and she'd draw dresses. And then she worked for a fashion house in London where she illustrated the in-house designs. And when she starts her own label, they put these little illustrations into magazines one at a time to sell clothes. And Barbara was really smart. Well, Barbara and her husband were really smart because all the cool clothes were in London in shops. And if you couldn't get to London or you couldn't afford to go to London, it was really easy. You could mail order. And even though they had already opened a shop, a lot of their business was also dependent on mail order. The big watershed moment for BIBA makeup arrived in 1968. That's when Barbara produced her first photographic mail order catalog. So I'm going to show you some images that were produced for the catalog. And I really want you to have a look at the images. Barbara's an illustrator, so again, her attention to detail is in everything. These aren't just models wearing clothing, these are actual characters, these are actual fashion ideas, something that you really didn't see before this in this particular way with this kind of makeup. Before, fashion was about being pretty and looking pretty and attractive. And down to the shoes, everything is just right, everything is just perfect. No wonder they made a lot of business with these catalogs because they were wildly successful. And Barbara, in the back of her mind, always had the idea of starting a makeup line. And once they moved into the biggest store that BIBA ever occupied, a 5-story building in London, there was space for a makeup counter. So her first idea was lipsticks. I mean, who hasn't bought a lipstick out of nowhere? She went to see these developers. Her idea was brown lipstick, and of course, all the men laughed at her because there was nothing like that on the market. Everything was 60s, rosy, and pinky. And incidentally, this is a early 70s makeup, and you'll notice very 60s inspired. It's just the clothing that make the difference. And a lot of women were wearing this sort of makeup with these kinds of clothes. And the genius of Barbara was to find a look for the 70s that was never seen before and that was exciting visually in photographs. And that's the innovation that Barbara brought. The lipsticks apparently sold out in about a day. I mean, even if they sold out within a month, that's pretty incredible. Brown lipsticks, I mean. And after that, Barbara came out with 4 lipsticks: a blue one, brown, green, and black. I mean, how innovative is that? And not only was the makeup groundbreaking, it was inexpensive. Like all the clothes in the BIBA shop, Everything was affordable. And of course, the clothes. I mean, the clothes were fabulous. I mean, not only were they fabulous, but Barbara offered the most nice looking clothes at the lowest prices possible. And the shop was always full of people because you could get affordable clothing, cool clothes, shoes, accessories, and at the end you could get the makeup. You could get the whole look in one place. And that's kind of like H&M. Wait, and like H&M, Barbara produced all the clothes for her shop. She designed everything, and she would see what would sell, and she'd make variations and tweaks on the clothes. I would argue she was the Karl Lagerfeld of the 1970s. If someone invented the look of the 1970s, the image of the 1970s, it was Barbara. And just right after it, you have the disco look that appears in 1973 in the US and in France. England is a little bit slow on catching up to the disco look because they're still caught up in the BIBA look because they love it. And who else is really into the BIBA look? Italians. Wait till you see. That's why the BIBA makeup was so successful because it created a mood, something intangible, eerie, something dreamy, and something exciting because the clothes themselves were just clothes. And a lot of the clothes that were inspiring Barbara Hulunitsky were from the 1940s and 50s. I mean, when you think about it, those are the clothes that their grandmothers wore. So where does the BIBA look come from? The first inspiration is really silent movie stars for the makeup. The first one, of course, is Theda Bara, so we'll have a picture here. And she was the first one to really go that dramatically with the makeup and be so dramatic in silent movies. And also young Greta Garbo, who was quite different looking at the beginning of her career, but she still had that trademark sultry, lanky kind of poutiness about her. I want to have a look at the makeup itself. So the first one is the store, and this is the ground floor, full of cosmetics, a lot of them. So they were selling a lot of these products. Now, as you can see, it was a full line of colors. Now we're going to have a look at the BIBA Cosmetics images. And if you've noticed, the catalogs are in black and white. And these images here, there's not a lot of them are in black and white too. Just to show you how influential this was. There's not a lot of images produced by the store, by Barbara. There's very few of them actually, and they're all pretty much amazing. And what's even more amazing is this led to a slew of other pictures that were inspired by these ideas that Barbara put forth. So now we're going to have a look at how the BIBA look filtered out through what was fashion editorials or fashion looks at the time. I had my luck of finding some vintage Vogue scans online. We'll have a look at a few here that are really, really interesting really quickly. And then we'll talk about also some images that are landmark images. We have here Angelica Houston. We don't often think of Angelica Houston being a model, but she was one in the 1970s, and her very ethereal, otherworldly beauty. This is a picture by Barbieri, who was an Italian photographer, and this is a color version of the BIBA aesthetic. And here she is posing for Valentino at the time in the 1970s, wearing a gorgeous dress that you could still wear today, by the way. And here we have another image by Barbieri. I don't know who this model is, but notice the eye shade characterized by eyes that are going downwards or pretty much horizontal. In the 60s, there was a lot of makeup that went more upwards and was more cat eye. So this is kind of inverted and different, very dreamy and sophisticated about it. And this is the first time in makeup history that we actually see makeup artists being more and more hired to do makeup on models because this look is very difficult to achieve. There's another look that I want to bring up that really inspired me to do a recreation. The makeup is by Barbara Daly, and she started her career in the early 70s. I don't know a lot about her. I couldn't really find much. She was very inspired by BIBA and that whole 70s aesthetic of silent movie stars, and she really developed something really interesting. This one here with the turban is the one that really caught my attention. I really loved it. And I tried to inspire myself from the look. Now, it's not a recreation, it's an inspiration. Oddly enough, in music, this style was really, really popular and caught on. And I have a few examples here for you. First of all, from the UK directly, here's Lulu. This is a screenshot from her video called The Man Who Sold the World. And yes, it's a David Bowie cover. And doesn't she look just amazing the way she's styled and her eye makeup? And you can sort of see the beginning of the late 70s in the UK. And also, it was really, really popular in Italy. The Italians loved the dramatic flair that this makeup gave. So there are two singers that I really, really want to talk about. The first one is Patti Bravo, and here she is in an absolutely wonderful end of BIBA into disco look. I mean, you can sort of see both connecting. And what makes it more BIBA than disco is that sort of downward slope in her eyes and the fact that there's no brows. But it's a lovely halfway meeting. And the second one of all is Mina. So if you've never heard of Mina, that's probably because you're not Italian, or you're not interested in Italian music, or you're not interested in makeup like I was to find her. And she's the Celine Dion of Italy. And I mean, here's the proof. Doesn't she look absolutely amazing and stunning in this makeup? This is 1978. How fantastic is that? And I have an earlier video of her. So I was so into Mina's look. She's just so fabulous, like Lady Gaga. I mean, you might disagree. These are my opinions. Please let me gush. So I was really into that look, and I tried to do wearable version on me. So here's a roll of that. So enjoy. So here we are at the end of a little time travel through the BIBA look. Now I want to specify this look was only popular in the UK and Italy. The rest of the world hated it because it wasn't sexy at all. It was only purely theatrical for the camera. And it was made at a time by the biggest youth culture on the planet that created looks and ideas and the notion that you could be cool and fun and fashionable all at the same time. So now we are on to the final part of the video, which is where we reproduce authentic color BIBA look. When I say authentic, let's take it with a grain of salt, okay? Because it's really hard to make anything authentic. First of all, I don't have the BIBA products, and I'm looking at a color image that was in the Vogue UK. So I'm going to pull it up right here. It's very BIBA, and what makes it even more BIBA is I took a look at the listing of the makeup, and it was done by Barbara Daly, and all of the makeup products are from BIBA. And I don't know if this one was sanctioned by Barbara Hulinitzky, who was the owner of the owner. Let's say she was the creative director of BIBA. But I do know that all these colors that we see are probably BIBA, and because there were simply no other colors like this at the time. Now, for full disclosure, I did film this after doing the makeup itself that you're going to see later on to finish the video. So my version of this look. And when I do these kinds of videos and complex looks, I always do what I call a sketch. So I try it out on myself very fast. I'm not really interested in doing something finished or polished. I just want to see if the way I think I'm going to do it is going to work when I do the filming. And this is a picture that I did of the look. And as you can see, if I bring up the other look, we're kind of miles away for many reasons. So the first reason is the model wears all green, and I have a red turban, which is clashing with all the green makeup. And the reason why I chose to do a green lip is because in the book by Barbara Hulinitzky for the Victoria and Albert Museum, the exhibit that they did, it does mention that they had monochromatic palettes and monochromatic lipsticks, including green. So I figured I'm going to make it more authentic than this picture. I'm going to make it all green, which is kind of a dangerous idea, as you saw, because it's very witchy and gothic, and with the red it just didn't work. So I decided to use my hair color, my natural hair, and curl it in sort of a pre-Raphaelite hair type style. And I found a blazer that was sort of dark green, and as you're going to see in the following reel, it does look better than that. And also I made it tighter around my eye, and I faded the color with a yellowish green tint. So I'm going to show you how I did the shape, the very specific BIBA shape. And this is the shape plus a bit of build-up, and I'll explain to you what I did. I want you to notice the shape, and this is really crucial to the BIBA look. This is the shape, and this is the shape that I used under the makeup. Now, if you remember the picture that I showed you earlier, if you don't do this shape, you'll end up with something very blown out. I recommend putting a shape underneath. The base color is this green shade here that I put through here and down here. The next shade is the olive shade that I put underneath here, and then I used to deepen up this part and this part. And then I used the ColourPop Irish palette, the green palette. So there you go, that's the basic. The rest is your imagination and your creativity on how you're going to blow out the shape, because basically that's what it is. And now with that part done, we're moving on to the actual look. The things I had to do to my hair to get it like this. I should have worn a turban. I'm just getting to the role of being a BIBA girl, a 1920s silent actress, and whatever this is, I'm not sure. I hope my mom doesn't see this. I'm kidding. Here I am, back with the BIBA look, inspired but as authentic as possible look. Don't I look like a fashionable witch? I'm not sure if it's this green. This one is a bit more blue toned than green, but you know what? I kind of like it like this. I don't mind it. I mean, like I said, this is a very difficult look to pull off. Yesterday I tried different versions for my mouth just to make it pretty but also authentic at the same time. And from watching Lisa Eldridge's video about BIBA, there was a thing called China Doll Cheeks, and that was a cream product in a pot, and it says that they used all green except for the lips, so the contour was green. So on me I have a bit of green contour. I put some pink blush because I kind of looked dead without it. with the green lips, like it's very goth. And also, if you look at this look more closely, it can easily become punk, which was the next step in the evolution of the 70s in the UK. And then after that came the disco look. And I hope you enjoy it. There's going to be a little roll. I might comment some of the stuff. The lashes, I want to say, I didn't put them on originally. And then I saw the rolls and I thought, I'm going to try it with the long lashes at the bottom. What's interesting is if I look down, it looks like I'm wearing top lashes. But when I look up, they're on the bottom. And this is very particular of that BIBA look, or the sort of UK doll of the early 70s, is that there's not a lot on the upper lid. Most of the weight is on the bottom part of the eye. So if you're considering doing something for Halloween that's coming and you want to look fashionable, you can try your hand at this. You'll need to try it a few times on your face to get sort of the hang of it, because it can go crazy. I hope you enjoy this. Now I'm going to roll the reel, and I think it's kind of Mark Bolan-ish with this. I mean, Mark Bolan, where are you? I'm channeling you. Very raw glam. You can kind of see where the raw glam comes from with this look. I mean, it's undeniable.